Hi there. You are watching Aha Moments with Ron Barnett, the show where we take basic information, basic things we deal with every day, maybe add just a little bit of insight, and hopefully throughout the time that we're together, a little light bulb goes off above your head, and you have what I like to call an aha moment. And you say to yourself, I've never thought about it like that before. Today, we're going to talk about the impact of our decisions. Now, as Americans, we make on an average 35,000 decisions a day. Now, I don't know if that's where you live. I'm not sure it's where I live, but that sounds like a lot. We are asked to decide everything from what we're going to do, where we're going to be, where we're going to go, how we're going to get there, what we're going to wear, what we're going to eat. And so the number of decisions that you and I face on a daily basis can be very, very staggering. And you got to understand that the impact of our lives, the course of our lives is set in the decisions that we make. Now, I've never been asked to speak to a graduating class of any kind, college, high school, grade school, kindergarten, obedience school, none of that stuff. But if I ever was, I know what I would tell them. I would tell them that the importance of making good decisions. You show me people who make good decisions on a regular basis, and I will show you people who are successful in life, who look back over their lives and are proud of what they've accomplished. Now, those people also have made some bad decisions in their time. And really, all decisions can be broken down to good decisions and bad decisions. A lot of times, though, we figure this out. We say a good decision is when I get good consequences, I get good impact on my life. And I'm not sure that's actually true. You can make a bad decision and it turns out well for you. You can also make a good decision and it turns out poorly for you. So I'm not sure that consequences are what we can use to decide whether that's a good decision or a bad decision. You say, well, then if we can't use outcome, if we can't use consequences, what can we use? Well, before we do that, let's talk about the things that we can make decisions about. I believe there's four things that you and I can make decisions about. Number one, you can make decisions about your words. Not only what you're going to say, and that's important, choosing your words carefully, because we know words have impact. When God created the world, he spoke the worlds into being. All right. And so he says, I make you in my image, and therefore our words have power. They do. So what you say is extremely important. But not only what you say, but how you say it. How you put those words together is extremely important. I don't know if you ever have a dog. Dogs are really good for this. You look at your dog, and a lot of people talk to their dog and they say, my dog understands. I'm not sure your dog understands the words you're saying as much as the emotion that you're giving them. So try this next time you're talking to your dog. Just walk up to your dog and smile and say in a lovely voice, I can't stand you. You're so horrible. And watch. And his little tail will wiggle. Why? Because he's hearing not what you're saying, but how you're saying it. And so it's extremely important that we not only decide on our words what we're going to say, but how we're going to say it. Another thing is who you're going to say it to. A lot of times, if I have a problem with you, I may not talk to you about it. I may talk to somebody else. And that's a poor use of our words. I'm deciding to use words, and I'm deciding to use words to solve a problem, but I'm not talking to the person that we have the problem. I'm talking to somebody else. And if I'm talking to somebody else, then that's a bad decision. And finally, when you use your words, when you decide to use your words. I know over the years, my wife and I, we have different styles of communicating, different styles. I use lots of words. She doesn't use lots of words. And so a lot of times when I want to talk to her about what I'm thinking or what I'm feeling, the first question I learned a long time ago to ask is this a good time? She may have had a great day and she's open and she feels good. And so we can discuss about issues that we're having. And again, if I choose my words properly and I choose not only what I say, but how I say it, that decision. But sometimes I'll say to her, hey, can we talk? And she's like, you know what? I have had a day. Is it something that has to be handled right now? And a lot of times the answer is no. then if the answer is no, then put that off to a time where she's going to be more receptive to hear. So the person you're talking to, not only what you're saying, how you're saying it, who you're saying it to, but when you're saying it. Those are all decisions. And you and I can either decide to use our words properly, and those may come out to have good outcomes, or we can use our words improperly and create problems for ourselves. Okay. Second thing you're going to think about what you decide is your actions. Again, what you do, when you do it, how you do it. I think of the story in the Old Testament where Moses is called upon to speak to the rock. The children of Israel are in the desert and there's no water. And God says, speak to the rock and I'll make water come out of that rock. Well, Moses is mad at the people. And so he goes over and he smites the rock. That's the Old Testament way of saying he hits the rock. And he's angry. And so because he's angry, he hits the rock. Now, water still comes out because God is faithful. But God said, because you did it that way, you didn't make a good decision. He didn't even get to go into the promised land. Why? Because he didn't do what God asked him to do the way he asked him to do it. And so you have to decide not only on your words, you have to decide on your actions. The next thing you make a decision on is your attitude. And this is extremely important. You can't always control. As a matter of fact, you can rarely control what happens to you. You can't control how other people are going to act. You can't control about things around you. You can't control the weather. You can't control much of anything. But you can control how you react to it. And you can control your attitude toward it. I have a friend of mine, and she's on Facebook a lot, and I see her all the time. And I was talking to her on the phone the other day, and I said, hey, you know what I like about you? I said, no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, every time I see you, it looks like you're just having the best time. And I said, I love that about you, that no matter where I see you, whether it's in person or online, you just look like you're having the best time. And she said, Ron, that's a choice. That is a choice I make. I'm going to make the best of every situation, even the bad ones. And I'm going to choose my attitude. I'm going to choose how I'm going to act, how I'm going to respond. I'm going to choose to have a positive thought instead of a negative thought. And so that leads me to step number 4. Thing number 4, the thing you decide is your thoughts. You and I have to think about what we're thinking about. And that's extremely hard for us because we just want to go through life. We don't want to do that much thinking. And yet you and I have thoughts every day. And the Bible says that when we should take every thought captive. In other words, a few years ago, my son and I were headed to the Air Force Museum in Dayton, Ohio. Now, the Air Force Museum is a free, and if you ever like looking at airplanes, they have every airplane from the Wright brothers all the way up through the space program. And they've got every military airplane you can imagine. Well, we like to go there and just look at the airplanes. But right next door to the Air Force Museum is Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And I got turned around. Now, those of you that know me know that I have sometimes directional issues. Sometimes I don't always go the way I want to go. And so I pulled into what I thought was the parking area for the Air Force Base, or for the Air Force Museum. Come to find out, I pulled up to the guard gate of the Air Force Base. And there was a little guy there in a little blue beret, little pistol on his hip. And he said, can I help you? And I said, I'm here to go to the Air Force Museum. And he said, you are in the wrong place. And he said, I want you to turn around and go back over there. And then he gave me directions how to get to the Air Force Museum. See, he was taking me to a certain extent captive. He was saying, is this a good thing to let in? And obviously I had no business being on the Air Force Base. And so he said, no, we're going to send you away. You and I have to, every thought that comes into our head, make the decision. Is that a thought that's going to lead to goodness? If it is, let it in. Raise the gate. Let it go. But if it's a thought that's going to lead us to negativity, not only in our own life, but in the lives of people around us, because we impact other people. You know this as well as I do. If it's a negative thought, then guess what? We need to send it packing. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. And so when we have negative thoughts, we have to think about what we're thinking about. And we have to make decisions as to whether we're going to let that thought stay or we're going to make it go. And so 4 things that we decide about. And so it's extremely important. Now, what's interesting to me is you can decide not only how your life goes here, but how your life goes into eternity. God gives you the responsibility to decide on not only your life here on earth, but your life after this life. And so all of the decisions that you and I make impact our daily lives. And so it's extremely important that we make good decisions. And it's extremely important that we come to those decisions from a place of positivity, from a place of scriptural basis, to come for those decisions based upon something other than how we feel. Because you and I both know that when we make decisions solely upon how we feel, something always goes wrong. And we're going to say the wrong thing. We're going to do the wrong thing. We're going to think the wrong thing. We're going to have the wrong attitude. And it's not only going to poison our life, but it's going to poison the lives of people around us and the people that we love. And so we've got to make sure we do that. Now, let me give you some truths. Let me give you some truths about decisions. Number 1 is truths about decisions. Number 1 is that decisions have consequences. Let me say that again because it's so important. Every decision that you and I make, whether it's what we're going to wear in the morning, what we're going to do, where we're going to go, all those decisions have consequences. Now, consequences, good decisions have good consequences. Bad decisions have bad consequences. Now, sometimes yes and sometimes no. You and I can make good decisions and still get bad consequences, right? I think of a woman who is expecting, who then gives birth, and the process of going through that labor and delivery, and it is a bad decision. I mean, she is questioning why she even got involved in this to begin with. But at the end of all that, you get a wonderful, lovely child. And so, ladies, some of you have decided to do it multiple times. I mean, some of you have 2, 3, 4, 5 kids. And so you've decided that despite the fact that it's painful, despite the fact that it's uncomfortable, despite the fact that in the middle of summertime where it's hot and you may have health issues, you may have onset diabetes or all kinds of other problems, you decided that it was worth it. And so you made a good decision, may have bad consequences for a short period of time, but the good consequences override it, which is great. But you and I have to understand that every decision that we make has consequences. The big ones, the little ones, the ones that we don't even think about, they all have consequences. Truth number 2 is small decisions can have a great impact. Small decisions, things we don't even think about. I think about 9/11. There were people who were on their way to work on September 11th, 2001. And they said, oh, you know what? I need to stop and get donuts. And they stopped and got donuts. And so they were a few minutes late. And the building they were headed to obviously was one of the ones that were hit, whether it was the Twin Towers or whether it was the Pentagon. That one little decision. I heard a story about a dad who normally allows his wife, she drops the kids off at the daycare on her way to work, but she had a meeting, she had to be there early, so now he's dropping the kids off, and he's dropping them off at a different time, and had he dropped them off, they would have been in the daycare at the Pentagon and would have been hit, but because they made the decision to have him do it, he was later, and they were okay. People who missed the plane, who were supposed to be on the plane, who weren't on the plane. All those little decisions that you think, well, that wasn't a big deal. But sometimes those little decisions can have huge consequences, huge impacts. I can't explain this enough to say that decisions have consequences. And sometimes the small decisions can have great consequences. Have you ever seen something as an older person, as a parent, as a person who's been around a while? I see things in people's lives that they may or may not see. I work with younger people. I work with 12, 13, and 14-year-olds. And I see things in their lives that they don't see because they're just young. They're not, it's not that there's something wrong with them. They're just young and they don't understand. And I say to them, if you continue in the decisions that you're making, let me tell you what are some impacts that can happen to you. And they look at me like, well, that can't happen to me. Guys, let me tell you something. We need to think about what we're thinking about. We need to think about what we're deciding. And we need to realize that decisions have consequences. And sometimes it's the small decisions, the ones that we don't even think about, the ones that we go, it's no big deal. Those are the ones that can have the greatest impact in our lives. Well, I hope this has been helpful to understand the impact of our decisions. Hopefully you've had an aha moment. So thanks for tuning in. Hope you have a great day, and tune in next week when we'll talk about the impact of not only our decisions, but our